Friends, welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's not difficult for you, but it's nice for me, and we're starting. It was a simple, uncomplicated question, and it deserved a simple, uncomplicated answer. John Montero thought to himself. How long have you been making love to Aaron? He was practically whispering to his wife Tracy, with whom he had lived for 22 years, when she entered the dark kitchen before he surprised her by turning on the light. Tracy didn't say anything, because halfway through she realized that John apparently knew a lot more than she had assumed. She knew it would be unwise to fall for another lie. About 5 years, she whispered, without taking her eyes off the table. And does everyone at the university know this? Yes, she whispered again. Oh shit. You've been making love to this guy for 5 years now, and everyone knows about it except your dumbest husband. I think it serves me right, since I trust you so completely. Is there anyone else I should know about, you fool? A look of shock crossed Tracy's face. John had never said a single unkind word to her before, even when they were fighting. She saw the fury in his eyes and was grateful that John was not a violent man. Tracy's thoughts were racing in different directions. When and how did John find out about Aaron? Could he have attended the awards dinner? It didn't make any sense to Tracy, of course, because John had never been to any of the university awards gala dinners before, but the timing of this encounter was too random. Nevertheless, nothing happened at the gala dinner that could give away their connection, she thought. John was late for the gala dinner. Tracy told him not to worry about going, as it was just a dinner in honor of various members of the university's academic departments. Tracy worked as an administrator at the English department. The faculty had 5 professors, a dean, an associate dean, an administrator, and a secretary. She worked at the school for 15 years, and this year she had an anniversary. Her husband usually worked about an hour late on Fridays, so she knew he probably wouldn't even think about attending the event. Heck, he hadn't attended any other gala dinners in the last 14 years, so she didn't think he'd agree to this dinner even if she got a badge. To tell the truth, she didn't want him to be present, but she told him about the dinner so that she wouldn't be accused of not keeping him informed. John had not promised to attend the event, but he knew he was going to come to honor his wife's anniversary. He thought she would get a lot of pleasure from this surprise. This is what you do for the love of your life, he thought to himself. The traffic slowed him down a bit, and he was about 10 minutes late for dinner. Almost everyone was already queuing at the buffet and sitting at tables, mostly by department. John looked at where Tracy was sitting and found her at a 15-person table occupied by the English department and, as it turned out, several spouses. John noticed that Tracy was sitting between Associate Dean Jason Peterson and Professor Aaron McClary. He noticed that there were no empty seats at this table, so after going through the queue to the buffet, he sat down at a table at the end of the hall, deciding that he would find his wife and congratulate her after she received her award. As John expected, the program was boring, but eventually they got to the English department. When his wife's name was called, she got up and went to collect her award from the dean, Dr. Stephen Englebert. As she walked up the runway, John couldn't help but be proud that she looked 10 years younger than her 46 years. She probably weighed a couple of kilograms more than when they first got married, despite the fact that she had 2 children, and her shoulder-length dark brown hair emphasized her light, almost alabaster skin. After she took her award and headed back to the table, John got up from his seat and headed forward to intercept her and surprise her with his congratulations. She returned to her table before him, and when she arrived, John noticed that Aaron stood up, obviously to congratulate her too. He seemed like a pretty nice guy when John dated him a few times over the years, and John didn't think anything of it until Tracy invaded Aaron's personal space. She gently placed her hands on his forearms and then kissed him gently on the lips. John stopped dead in his tracks and just stared. No one at the table seemed to pay any attention to this. Perhaps because at first glance it didn't look too demonstrative, but for John it meant a lot. This simple action was as intimate and familiar as if it were done by a husband and wife, or, apparently, a woman and her longtime lover. John suddenly felt nausea and a tremor in his stomach. He immediately turned around and left the hall, found the bathroom, and threw his insides out. He cleaned himself up and drove home, thinking about everything and nothing for a 20-minute drive. It was a little after 9 when John got home, so he knew he had about 2 hours to make some plans. Tracy was supposed to be home at about 11, as she always does at such events, and it dawned on him that her punctuality was probably one of the reasons he trusted her so much, and one of the reasons she successfully hid her affair. Don't do anything unusual, and the ignorant husband won't suspect anything, John thought to himself. Thinking about things from this perspective helped John understand something else. He realized that every time Tracy returned home after an evening walk, she quickly greeted him and went upstairs to take a quick shower to wash away the impressions of the day, as she called it. Then she went downstairs, having just taken a shower and lightly perfumed with a new perfume. He never put two and two together to realize that she was probably hiding the scent of love on her body. Of course, he and Tracy never made love on those nights, as she always claimed she was too tired. At least she didn't share careless seconds with him. At about 10:55 a.m., John took a bottle of red wine out of the refrigerator and put 2 glasses on the kitchen table. He went into the living room and turned on the lights and the TV before returning to the darkened kitchen to sit down. 10 minutes later, Tracy drove her car into the garage and entered the kitchen. She was about to call her husband when the kitchen light suddenly turned on. John was not in the office. He was in the kitchen. Tracy murmured. John looked like he'd eaten a lemon. He pointed to another glass of wine and took a sip from his own. Why? John croaked. I loved you with all my heart and thought that you loved me. We have raised 2 wonderful children. What happened to the till death do us part oath? I'm sorry, John. It just happened. I know it sounds like bullshit, but it's true. When he came here, we became friends. Then it became something more. And along the way, the dean and then others found out about it. The dean just asked us to treat the university with respect, and after a while it became normal. I became his wife at work in every sense. And then we just cut out a little extra time when we could. You trusted me completely, and that made our task easier. Well, it was so stupid of me to trust the woman I love. I'm sorry about that, John quipped. And you must have enjoyed my occasional trips too. Tracy blushed and lowered her eyes. John got his answer. I'm in love with 2 men. You may think it's impossible, but it's true. I love you both and have tried my best to never hurt you. You didn't lack for love, either emotionally or physically. I've always been there for you. Tracy cried plaintively, and her eyes filled with tears. At least until recently, John replied. When did he get ahead of me? In the last few months, you've started to distance yourself from me emotionally, and it's been ages since you've made love on your own. You make contact if I want to, but you don't initiate, and when we make love, I don't feel the tension anymore. Are you thinking about him? Aaron has been having a hard time with his wife lately, and maybe I got a little carried away with his problems. So Mr. Second Husband is also married. And did he have a hard time with his first wife? Difficult times? I suppose she doesn't know about his affair? As far as we know, none of you knew about this affair. We were so careful. We didn't want to hurt any of you. John shouted. You were so careful because you didn't want to get caught. At least you knew what would happen if you were caught. How did you catch us? Tracy asked quietly. Are you trying to change something in the future? John asked jokingly. What the hell? As if it makes any difference. I didn't catch you. You gave yourself away. Tracy's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. What? I was late for the award banquet by about 10 minutes. I had to sit in the back. I saw the kiss. A kiss? That little kiss? It was nothing. How could you tell anything from that kiss? What is it? She asked. Because it wasn't demonstrative. It was just a little intimate kiss and touch, just like we've shared thousands of times in the past, but not lately, John said. Maybe I was the only one in the room who saw it. Tracy blushed and stammered. She decided not to answer. Why did you come to the awards ceremony? What is it? She finally asked. Because I saw that we were moving away from each other, and I was trying to be close to you so that maybe we could get back together. Talking about the wrong things. I'm sorry, John. I never meant to hurt you. How can we come to some kind of agreement to move forward? Tracy asked. Move forward? Seriously? John asked in the tone of a man in complete shock. I'm going to call my lawyer first thing Monday morning. What? Am I not sure I want a divorce? What? If you're not sure you want a divorce, that's your problem. Because I'm sure I want a divorce, John said. You can't love 2 men if you've sworn an oath to me. And I'm certainly not going to be husband number 2. Maybe we just need to slow down a bit, John. I still love you, but I also love someone else. I don't understand why we should rush into a divorce, Tracy said, trying to look at John as sincerely as possible. I don't understand why you're making a bad guy out of me. Well, I'm certainly not the worst guy in this business. I'm not the kind of guy who's been having an affair for 5 fucking years. John stood up and poured his nearly full glass of wine into the kitchen sink. He trudged up the stairs to the bedroom. Tracy went into the living room and made a phone call. He knows, she said softly into her iPhone. He's talking about a divorce. She was listening intently to the conversation on the other end of the line. No, I have no idea. I wasn't planning this at the moment, she said in response to a question. Yes, I love you too. Tracy hung up the phone and sat in the living room, sipping wine and not really paying attention to what was being shown on the big screen. She went to the kitchen for a second glass and repeated the process. She truly loved Aaron, and although she didn't necessarily love John the way she did in the beginning, she believed she still had strong feelings for him. She remembered John's words that she had recently distanced herself from him and put her head in her hands. Looking back, she realized that John was probably right. She had been in more contact with Aaron in recent weeks. Over the past year, he and Aaron have discussed marriage several times, and in the last few months, Aaron and his wife, with whom they have lived for 17 years, have had difficulties, although Aaron said that, in his opinion, she did not even know about their affair. John wasn't in the bedroom when Tracy went upstairs. She saw that the door to their eldest daughter's room was closed and decided that John was sleeping there. Their eldest daughter was a junior at the University of Michigan, and the youngest was a freshman at Ball State, and Tracy thought that the fact that the children were in college was probably a good thing at the moment. John was mowing the grass in the morning spring sun when Tracy finally woke up. She went out onto the back porch of their house and watched him for a while, and when he looked up at her, she motioned for him to come inside. He shook his head vigorously and continued mowing. After standing on the porch for a couple of minutes with her hands on her hips, Tracy got into her car and drove away. John assumed she was heading to the grocery store, as she usually did on Saturdays, but he wasn't sure. Yes, and he didn't care. He had a lot on his mind. As soon as Tracy was out of sight, John went into the house to call his children and explain the situation to them. They were both shocked by his statement, but John explained that he had witnessed the kiss, and Tracy confessed her infidelity. Did you see them kissing, and then Mom just admitted that she slept with this guy? Katie, the eldest, asked. It wasn't so much the kiss as the way they kissed. It's like we've been doing this for years. This was the kind of familiarity that happens between a husband and wife. She broke my heart. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm really sorry, Katie said. Tracy and John usually went out for dinner on a Saturday night, but John had already cleaned up and left by the time Tracy returned from the store. She wasn't particularly surprised when he didn't return for dinner, but she knew it wasn't in his nature to be rude and not call. Finally, around 10:30 a.m., he entered the house, muttered something in Tracy's direction, and went upstairs, going back to sleep in his eldest daughter's room. John woke up to the smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen. He staggered downstairs with a hangover, bloodshot eyes, and poured himself a cup of coffee. Tracy sat at her end of the kitchen table and didn't say anything until John plopped down at the table. How about we act like a couple of adults now? Tracy asked, somewhat smugly. I haven't been very good at it in the last few weeks, have I? John replied just as snidely. All right, John. We've already discussed this. I'm sorry about what happened, but I still love you. I love you both. Let's think about how we can make it work for both of us. We can't make it work for both of us, John replied, because I can't do it at all. You swore before God and everyone else that we would be faithful to each other forever. You broke those vows. These are sacred vows. Not to mention you broke my fucking heart. You and your lover need to figure something out. I'm getting out of here. Can you just throw away 22 years of marriage? Tracy screamed. I made a mistake. This is a mistake. No, once would be a mistake, John said. It's been going on for years. You lived it. You wanted this. You've made your choice. The choice was not mine. Now you can go to him and devote all your time to him. But I don't want that, John, she said. I love you both. I really do. Give me some time to figure this out. For the sake of all of us. Everyone, John shouted. There are no all in this equation, and of course, there is no US. John turned and walked away, heading for the shower room in the main bathroom. When he went out and returned to the kitchen, Tracy was no longer there. She left a note on the bathroom door asking him not to do anything rash until they could talk again. Probably making love to that jerk. John thought to himself. Tracy did go to Aaron, but there was no love affair between them. I think that means our plans have just changed, Aaron said. I really wasn't ready for this at that moment, Aaron, Tracy admitted. I know we discussed it, and I really want to, but I still love him and I wasn't ready to let him go at that moment. We have a story, children. I've loved him for almost 25 years, and you just can't get rid of it. John confessed the same thing to himself at home. Although he wasn't overly emotional under normal circumstances, he couldn't hold back the tears that quickly flowed down his cheeks. He downed a shot of Don Julio tequila, finding solace in the warmth growing in his stomach. He was sitting at the kitchen table making a list of things he had to do personally in the next few days. He chuckled mirthlessly to himself that the absence of children made his plans easier. My God, he muttered. On Monday morning, John asked his boss to give him some personal time. His boss, Stan, had known John for over 15 years, and the only time John asked for personal time was when his parents died. He knew that something was wrong in John's life. Of course, the fact that John looked like he hadn't slept in days might have given Stan a second clue. There's no problem with the day off, John, Stan said. John hesitated, and then broke down and told Stan his story. Damn, I'm really sorry, John. I've been married about as long as you have, so I don't have any good advice for you other than to ask if you've considered all options, including reconciliation. Have you asked yourself if you would be better off with her or without her? I know it seems corny, but I've asked myself this question at least 100 times, Stan, and I've always gotten the same answer. In fact, she had a second husband for 5 years, and they discussed that she would leave me for him. I can't share her with anyone, and I can't put up with such disrespect. I love her and I hate her. I'll never be able to trust her again. She's a lying fool, Stan. I know I don't deserve a lying fool. Tracy was struggling with the divorce, but was smart enough to start making alternative plans with Aaron. 6 months later, John became a free man for the first time in almost 25 years. Deep down, he knew that he still loved Tracy a little, but he couldn't separate his wife. He knew that if he hadn't stumbled upon Tracy's betrayal, he would have had to come to terms with it eventually, and not necessarily from a position of strength. The couple split their finances in half and agreed to sell the house. The children, of course, were depressed by the divorce, but they understood that there was nothing they could do to change John's mind. Only Tracy's parents seemed to have problems with the divorce, and throughout the process they repeatedly begged John to do more to try to save the marriage. John really loved his in-laws on his wife's side and tried to gently convince them. She says she loves us both. I wasn't created that way, so I made the choice for her, John said. While the divorce process was going through court, John was tormented by the fact that he could not tell Aaron's wife about her husband's long-term infidelity. He knew that telling Aaron's wife would smack of revenge, but he also knew that he would prefer that she be told rather than left to fend for herself. The day his divorce became final, John called Aaron's wife and broke her heart. Both McClarys were about 5 years younger than Montero, and their 2 children were 15 and 12 years old. John was especially worried about how this would affect the McClary children. I'm really sorry to have to break the bad news, but I couldn't in good conscience not tell you about it. I'd feel like I was lying to you too, John told Aaron's wife, Letty. It took only one day to receive an insulting tirade from John's newly minted ex-wife. Wow, I bet you feel like a real man ruining Aaron's marriage this way. She was shouting at John on the phone. Why on earth do you think I'm going to participate in your deception of this innocent woman, you fool? John blurted back. If you love each other so much, admit it and be honest with this woman. She's never hurt you. You lovebirds. To John's surprise, Tracy went silent on the other end of the line. He heard someone mutter goodbye. While John was confident in his abilities in bed, Tracy was his only victory in the first 47 years of his life, and he did not go on dates for about 25 years. He was fully aware that his love life would never be the same again. However, what John did not count on was the number of single women over the age of 40, and the divorce rate exceeded 50%. Word spread around John's place of work that he was now a free man, and single women between the ages of 25 and 65 made sure that John, who always kept himself in good shape, knew that they were available. In those rare moments when John went to his favorite place, he had no shortage of company. It took time, but John sometimes enjoyed the abundance of wealth. Over time, the hole in John's soul tightened, and life returned to a more even course. McClary's divorce didn't go as smoothly as Montero's, but 18 months later Tracy and Aaron got married. Montero's 2 children did not have warm feelings for Aaron and mostly stayed with John when they were at home, while the McClary children stayed with Aaron and his new wife only every weekend. Tracy tried her best, but she couldn't really get attached to Aaron's children. Over time, this turned out to be not such a big problem for the couple. While Tracy enjoyed being Aaron's working wife, after a few months her status as a full-time wife seemed to have dried up. Tracy wasn't sure if the problem was simply that she missed John, that she was overly attracted to Aaron, or that she really needed the diversity of 2 men. Regardless of the reason, the couple divorced 3 years later. At 52, John was still in good shape, although there were gray streaks in his dark brown hair. He didn't have much trouble attracting female companionship, and he went on 1 or 2 dates every week. He went to his favorite eatery to grab a sandwich and have a couple of drinks after a hard day's work. He was sitting at the bar and had just started eating a sandwich when he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Hello, stranger. Do you mind if I sit here?" John didn't need to turn around to realize that the voice belonged to his ex-wife. He swallowed hard. "What are you going to drink, Tracy?" "What is it?" he asked, gesturing for her to sit down. "As always, John. I know you haven't forgotten. Cal, Chablis for the lady, please." At my expense. While the bartender was serving wine, John looked at his ex-wife for the first time in almost 5 years. Her blonde hair was a little longer, her waist was 5 centimeters wider, and there were wrinkles at the corners of her eyes, but she was still a damn attractive woman, John had to admit. "How about we make a truce for Katie's wedding, John?" Tracy asked. "I didn't know we were at war," John replied. "You haven't said a word to me since the divorce a minute ago," Tracy said. "You don't show up at family events. You didn't even come to Katie's engagement party. Our eldest daughter is getting married next year, and you should be there and be present. It's important to her, John. If it's important to Katie, then it's important to me. I will be there for her, and I will do everything in my power for her. You make plans, and I'll take care of the expenses." Tracy smiled sadly at John. "I remember how you treated me the same way, John. I don't understand how I could be so stupid as to accept you, your love, as a matter of course." John held out his right hand. Tracy put her left hand in it. 2 hours later, before leaving the bar, Tracy took John's cell phone number. The couple agreed to do everything possible to make Katie's wedding as memorable as possible. 3 weeks later, John met with Katie and his ex at a wedding lunch meeting. The meeting went well, and when John was about to return to work, he almost automatically invited Tracy to dinner the following Friday evening. Tracy beamed, and Katie looked more than surprised, raising her eyebrows and looking at her father. Tracy's version of the notorious little black dress caught John off guard when she opened the door on Friday night. "Wow, that's very nice, Mrs. McClary," John muttered. Tracy's smile was immediately replaced by a guilty expression. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen," John said. "I'm sorry too. I failed you. Damn it, I let myself down," Tracy added. The dinner took place in one of the best Italian restaurants in the city, followed by a display of works of art in one of the city's galleries. The couple mostly talked about their children, as well as what each of them did after the divorce. Tracy told John that after her divorce from Aaron, she moved to the university's business department, which, after 20 years of working at the English department, was like divorcing a large family. "When I do something stupid, I do it on a grand scale," she admitted sheepishly. They both enjoyed the evening, and Tracy offered John a drink as he walked her to the door. He politely declined, saying, "Maybe next time." This remark did not escape Tracy, who smiled broadly. On their third date, Tracy managed to lure John into her bed. She found a more experienced, more aggressive John, who had a few new tricks in store. "Why did I give up all this?" Tracy muttered. John realized that Tracy was asking herself a rhetorical question, and she had the tact not to answer. John and Tracy dated twice more over the next few months, and both times they ended up in bed. While John took evenings no more than dates with a beautiful old friend, he knew that Tracy was starting to take dating much more seriously. Katie confirmed this the next time she and John had lunch together. "You do understand that Mom thinks that you have a chance to be together again, don't you?" Katie asked pointedly as the couple sat down in the restaurant. "She's as happy as a schoolgirl. Your conjugal visits gave her the impression that you really care about her. But she knows I'm still seeing other women. I have repeatedly told her about this. I never lied to your mother, then or now. She's a beautiful woman. I don't mind taking a woman to bed. I am a healthy man." "Okay, Dad, I understand. But this is a woman who thought she could have two husbands and that you would agree to it. She has already shown that, perhaps, she does not always soberly assess her relationship." Message received. "Baby, I'm getting out of here." Tracy hinted several times that she would be asked out over the next few months, but John kept his promise to Katie, partly because he found the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. In truth, she found him. One Saturday, he was sprawled on the floor at a local supermarket when she hit him with her shopping cart. John screamed, falling to the floor at a local store after being hit by a cart. John looked up and saw a tall, thin blonde in her 50s, who was looking down at him with her hand over her mouth. "Oh, my God, I'm so sorry," the angular blonde said. "I was looking for some saffron while I was pushing the cart, and I wasn't looking." John practically jumped off the floor. "Hey, it's okay. No problem," he practically screamed. "I'm fine." The woman's green eyes filled with tears as he spoke. Without thinking, he examined the woman's left hand in search of a ring. He smiled to himself when he saw that there were no jewelry on his hand. Some guys will do anything to meet a beautiful woman. I'm one of them. "I admit I'm being shameless," John said. She wiped her green eyes with her sleeve and returned, smiling broadly. "Hello, shameless. I'm Rhonda. Actually, it's Rhonda Shires." Rhonda turned out to be a 50-year-old woman who divorced her husband 10 years ago for cheating. She dated someone from time to time, but she didn't have a serious relationship after the divorce. Even though she felt awkward after meeting John, she quickly admitted to herself that it was probably the best thing she had done in a while. "He's handsome," she thought to herself as John jumped up to her. A week later, John and Rhonda had their first date. They were supposed to have dinner and go to the cinema, but the couple got so carried away with the conversation that they abandoned the idea of a movie and went to a quiet bar to drink, eat dessert, and continue the conversation. This first date was followed by half a dozen more, and on the fourth date, the couple was very busy. Rhonda was completely stunned when John brought her to half a dozen moments, while she screamed indistinctly during love. "Unless this guy is Jack the Ripper, why would some woman let him go free?" Rhonda asked herself as she fell asleep in John's arms. 3 months later, John asked Rhonda to go with him to Katie's wedding. Tracy confessed to Katie that she hoped John would take her to the wedding. The wedding went off without a hitch. The bride was beautiful, and both her parents were incredibly proud of her. Sitting at the family table, with Rhonda's godparents, Tracy and Katie, Robert and Seal Morton, John was the perfect host who made sure that conversations and laughter, as well as champagne, flowed like a river all evening. He also made sure to dance with all three women at the table several times during the evening. It was late when John and Rhonda left the dance floor hand in hand, as usual, before Rhonda excused herself and went to the toilet. Before she left, she leaned over to John, whispered something in his ear, touched his cheek, and kissed him on the lips. Rhonda's eyes were shining when she left, and John's eyes were shining when he sat down, Tracy noticed. "I really hate to say this, but you need to put a ring on this woman's finger, John," Tracy said, while the Mortons, old family friends, looked on with smiles on their faces. "Once an old wise friend told me that the devil is in the details. Love is not about kisses hot enough to melt steel. She is in a pleasant, gentle touch. It is in the light touches of fingers and gentle caresses. A few months ago, when we met several times, I thought that I had a chance to win you back. But after thinking about it after these dates, I noticed that we never touched each other as tenderly as when we were married. That's when I realized that our relationship would never be special again. But watching you with Rhonda, I understand exactly what my friend meant. Light touches, a light, intimate kiss. She loves you. John, and you love her. Put the ring on her finger, John, and ride with her into the sunset. Please accept my best wishes, and from everyone else too." When Tracy finished speaking, Robert filled the glasses with champagne. To John and Rhonda, for the fact that they would have left towards sunset, he made a toast. When Rhonda came to the table, John stood up and kissed her on the lips. "If you'll excuse me, I'll have the courage," he said loudly enough for everyone at the table to hear. "I would like to invite the future Mrs. Montero to the next dance." End.